This video is sponsored by Wing Technology, your ultimate flight sim hardware solution, featuring the Orion hull test, current and future configurations.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. Today we're in the Mi-24P Hind and we're looking at guns and the Gunsight. As standard, on the starboard side of the aircraft we have 2x 30mm cannons. We can add additional gun pods on stations 3 and 4. Right click, pods. The GUV 8700W contains 1x 12.7mm 4-barrel rotary cannon and 2x 7.62mm rotary guns in each pod. 1 pod, 2 pod. We can also choose the amount of ammo in percent of the 30mm standard gun. Now before we go anywhere, we must make sure all our circuit breakers on this right panel are turned on. They should be from your start anyway. If they are not, then you just lift this lever up to make sure they're all on. Various armament circuits for the various weapons. Next, we need to communicate with our operator, who I'm going to assume is an AI Petrovich. In that case, we need to press Prepare Weapons System. So let's press that. He's going to turn on the weapons system so that we can fire the guns. Next, we're going to get rid of our seat and our stick because it's in the way. Scope of today's video will be this switch here, this armament panel here, and the entire gun sight here. In terms of what we're going to cover, well, there are 2 aiming modes in this aircraft for unguided cannon. 1 is manual mode, 2 is auto mode. Manual mode is very complex and it's going to take a lot of time and skill. It basically uses a stadiometric optical sighting system for manual ranging of targets. I covered stadiometric methods in a Huey tutorial, which I'll link from this one here. We will come back and look at the stadiometric manual method in this aircraft at some point, but for time being we're just going to look at auto because it is much simpler to work, where ranging is done automatically for you. So let's start with this switch here. Auxiliary stores light on, very important. Next, to the armament panel. We'll go through only what's relevant for today. First, do we want the auto or the manual ranging method? Like we said, we're going to go in auto. Do we want short, long or medium burst length for the cannon? Long. These guys here technically would recharge the gun pods. They are not functional at the time of making this video. Turn the gun sight on. That's gun camera, not modelled at the moment. Zeroing the sight will overlay the 2 different sights on top of each other temporarily while we push the button, and we'll look at the 2 different sights in a minute. Weapon selector. In terms of what we're interested in today, that will fire the gun pods, the 7.62 and the 12.7mm cannon. That will fire just the 12.7mm in the gun pods, just the 7.62mm in the gun pods. This will fire the twin 30mm starboard cannons. If said cannons jam, we can reload with this switch here. We're not sure if it's functional at the moment. Rate of fire of the 30mm. Do we want it in the hundreds of rounds per second or the thousands of rounds per second? 1,000 sounds awesome, but it creates a lot of recoil. It's a lot of lead coming out of the cannon, so we're going to go for about 300 to 400 RPM. Next, this is called fire control. It's the final say of the weapon preparedness. You might liken it to a master arm in another aircraft, and we're going to go on. In terms of the store station, we can see that we have active stores on pylons 2 and 3. In terms of what's relevant today, if we wanted to jettison our gun pods, open that up and turn that on. Next, let's go to the gun sight. The gun sight has lots of functionality. We're only going to cover what's used for non-stadiometric auto ranging. First, the gun sight in auto or manual mode. Auto. This will put the sight in a CCIP-like mode. Next, the sync. Do we want to sync or async? Async, as well as auto on here, will mean that the gun sight, as we use it, will compensate for wind and side slip, which is very important. If we were to use sync mode like that, we sync it with the front cockpit, and by sharing information with the equipment in the front cockpit, we can actually add lead for moving targets. That's more complex and will not be covered today. Back to async. Next, currently selected weapons. Today we'll be seeing the 30 when the starboard 30mm is selected, and we've got this guy here which will show when the pods are selected. Next, within this gun sight we've got 2 reticles we'll be working with, and one is there, one is there. One's actually off the screen, so I'm going to left click that there, and then I'm going to mouse scroll wheel to bring, so that unlocks and then scrolls down our gunsight glass. This guy here is the fixed reticle. This guy here is the floating reticle. The floating reticle is what we're really interested in today because it's what's used in our auto method. We have a backup lamp in case the lamp for the fixed or the floating reticle fails. Don't know if that's modeled or not. We can change the brightness of the fixed reticle, which we're going to do, and I suggest you do it if you're using auto mode. Also another one there for the brightness of the floating reticle. I suggest you turn that up and make it as bright as you can. Next, indicator lights. Green light will show here if the gun is ready to fire and we're in auto aiming method, which we are. Amber light here shows whether we are in optimum range to fire the weapon. Currently we are not. Next, we need to look closer at the reticles. The fixed reticle here is our stadiometric ranging sight. I will flash up on the screen the angles of the milliradians that you can see for each element. This will only be used in manual mode. We will not be using it in automatic mode. Next, I'll flash up some extra information for the floating reticle that we will be using. So, you can see various measurements of milliradian angles, most of which we will not be using today. Out of interest, we can also show between this gate here and this gate here, if we adjust this here, the base size of the target in meters, if we were to roll that up to say 5 meters for a 5 meter long target, between there and there now optically represents a 5 meter target at 0.6 kilometers. Next, we've got a side slip indicator. This guy here shows whether we're side slipping left or right. The center point on the reticle there is obviously where we want to put the target and pull the trigger. We have our range scale here. That is essentially 0 range. That is 3.5 kilometers. That is our max, the max suggested range of the weapon selected, our min, the minimum range of the weapon suggested. As our range decreases to a target, this line will disappear until we are within the thick line here. When we are within the thick line here, that is when we want to fire. That covers about 50% of the armament panel and the gun sight controls. The other controls are going to be either for different weapons or for stadiometric manual ranging. To fire the selected gun, just press and hold fire weapon. Okay, RC is now going to take us out and then we're going to come back in for a strafe on some targets. Now, note, this is not like a KA-50. We're not going to sit and hover with this auto aiming sight. This is for moving strafes, if that's the right word. We have to have forward movement because it's a gyro based sight in terms of the automatic mode that we're showing today. Using manual mode, it is possible you could do a kind of hover and firing, but it is not going to be an easy type of thing. So off you go, RC. So we can have a little look at the symbology. Remember, we're only looking at the bright reticle. I've just left the manual one in there purely for reference. We can see where we're aiming at the moment. In the center of the reticle, we are currently within ideal range. If I were to move it up like that, out of range. Pay special attention to the slip indicator there. We want to keep that as central as we can. I know that we do have some automatic compensation for slip, but it's just going to, everything's going to work better if we coordinate our aircraft and the run in. Okay, I'm running in now. So, aim towards the target, get my collective comfortable. I'm going to coordinate the rudder to reduce slip. Good shooting. Okay, I feel relatively coordinated there. Nose down a bit. We're actually going to retrim there. Retrim. Re-coordinate. And let's go for one of these guys here. Ha ha ha! Got him. Next one. And we're too close. Let's go around again. So one thing I noticed there, valued viewers, is that I have my gun sight too low down and you couldn't actually see ranging, so we're going to put it up again. That was my bad. For our next pass, we're in a little close here. It'd usually take a bigger run up, but it'll do. So we're going to coordinate that rudder. In I go. In range. Ah. Okay, not very good shooting, but you get the idea there. I did at least give him a few hits. Next, we're going to go to our gun pods. So all we're going to do is choose here. Sorry if you can't see that very well, but it is what we saw earlier, the most up position. If I fire now, that's going to fire all of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rotary cannons in those pods. In terms of the adjustment to the gun sights or the reticle, it's all done automatically, so we don't have to worry about that. Again, you should go for a longer run up than this, but I just want to, get this done quickly. Within range. I'm gonna slow the server down. I'm like 3 FPS. I didn't kill anyone. Well, I did some damage. Oh, let's go around again and finish them off. Why not? My rudder work is so bad. No, there you go. I took the paint off. I'm afraid I've reached the limit of my skill valid viewers. I can't fly any better at the moment. But that explains the auto method of using the gun sight in the Hind in the driver's position. You can fire the guns obviously from the operator's position, but you know you can't fly the helicopter, so there's not a great deal of point. Using the twin barrel 30mm mounted starboard mounted cannons or the gun pods. Anything you want to add to that, RC?
No, I don't think so.
Enjoyed that and see you later.